Hello friends, English Literature, Elizabethan and Jacobean Drama, The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. Short questions with answers, short questions 9 to 17. Question 9. How does Ferdinand try to dissuade the Duchess from her second marriage? Answer. The Duchess is young and beautiful, but unfortunately she has become a widow in the prime of her life. Her brothers Ferdinand and Cardinal warn her against second marriage. The reasons Ferdinand and the Cardinal put forth against the Duchess's second marriage are: she is a widow, she is of a royal blood and has a duty to her rank. The second marriage expresses a lecherous nature. Ferdinand tells her not to marry for the second time because it expresses lustful nature. He advises her to be careful of her honor and character. He says that her court at Malfi may be compared to a pasture land where cows and bulls can freely mix. The atmosphere of her court is full of temptation, and there are many opportunities for sex indulgences. But she should not fall a victim to such temptation and lose her honor. If she secretly indulges in sexual pleasures and outwardly puts on appearance of an innocent and chaste woman, she will be as wicked as a witch and will bring forth only wicked children, even though she may be quite young. If she is hypocritical, her children would be wicked as the devil, and further, one day or the other, all her sins will come to light, and then she will lose her honor and reputation. He again warns her that if she marries secretly, her marriage will be punished instead of being celebrated. Then Ferdinand grows even more harsh in his warning to the Duchess. He shows her his father's dagger and threatens to use it if she does not keep her lust under control. Question 10. Does his warning work on the Duchess? Answer. Ferdinand's firm warning does not work on the Duchess. As soon as her brothers leave Malfi, she tells her maid Cariola that she has already made up her mind to remarry in spite of the strong disapproval of her brothers. The Duchess says that she will not be influenced by her brother's threats in making her decision about her marriage. Even if all the noble relatives opposed her second marriage, she would ignore their opinion with contempt. She can realize the danger involved in her second marriage, but she decides to take the risk courageously, just like a soldier who tries to do dangerous actions. She does not care if it is rumored among the old women that she has blindly chosen a husband without considering the consequences. Thus, she cares little for the words of her brothers or for her own promise to them that she will not remarry. Question 11. Describe the marriage scene. Answer. The Duchess is a young and beautiful widow. She wants to remarry, but her brothers warn her not to do so. In spite of her brother's warning, she intends to remarry and chooses her steward Antonio to be her second husband. She summons him to her bedchamber. As he comes in, she suggests her intention to marry him through ambiguous and subtle language. During the conversation, she slips her ring on to Antonio's finger and says, "One of your eyes is bloodshot. Use my ring to it." They say it is very sovereign. After putting the ring in Antonio's finger, she explains, "It was my wedding ring, and I did vow never to part with it, but to my second marriage." Antonio is greatly surprised. She convinces him of her sincere proposal of marriage. They kneel down and conduct a sort of private marriage ritual and pray for their happy married life. Question 12. How does Cariola comment on the Duchess's marriage to Antonio? And so Carola is the faithful maid of the Duchess of Malfi. She knows all the activities of her mistress. In spite of her brother's warning, the Duchess secretly marries her steward, Antonio, in the presence of her maid Carola. When they leave from the scene to go to nuptial bed, refraining sexual contacts, Carola comments on this marriage. She says that she is not sure whether her mistress is governed by a spirit of greatness in her, but by her womanly lust to marry Antonio. But she thinks that the present course of action of the Duchess, that is her marriage to Antonio, is a fearful madness. She fears the consequences of such hasty marriage. She feels pity for her mistress for the dangerous consequences that are likely to follow. Thus, Carola's comment on her mistress's marriage is full of foreboding. The tragic combination of both pity and fear occurs her comment. Question 13. Why does Bossulat suspect that the Duchess is pregnant? Answer. Bossulat is a Machiavellian villain. He is appointed as a spy in the guise of a provisor of the horses at the Duchess's court by her brothers. His shrewdness and minute observation equip him well for that role. He suspects that the Duchess is pregnant on several grounds. He finds that she is sick nowadays. She vomits and her stomach is upset. The edges of her eyelids look deep blue, which is very much like those of a woman who has become pregnant. Her cheeks are becoming pale. Her sides or hips are enlarged, and contrary to the Italian fashion, she now wears loose gown. Bossulat finds something secret in all this. Besides, the Duchess tells Antonio to later lean upon his arm and asks Bossulat to arrange for her an easy chair like the one in which the Duchess of Florence used to be carried. Bossulat then replies that the Duchess of Florence used that easy chair when she was pregnant. For all these reasons, Bossulat suspects that the Duchess is pregnant and wants to discover it by means of a clever way. Question 14. How does Bossulat become sure that the Duchess is pregnant? Answer. Bossulat detects the pregnancy of the Duchess when she asks for a carriage as was used by the Duchess of Florence. In order to become sure, she brings her some apricots. When he offers her the apricots, she feels very excited at the mention of the apricots. And she thanks him and praises the apricots, saying that they are wonderfully beautiful. She eats them very greedily, even without peeling them. After finishing the apricots, the Duchess begins to feel sick and retires to her bedchamber. All this confirms his suspicion that the Duchess is pregnant. So there is no question, but her most voluptuous eating of the apricot is an apparent sign of her breeding. Thus, Bossulat, by means of his apricot test, becomes sure that the Duchess is pregnant. Question 15. How does Bossulat praise Antonio? Answer. When the Duchess dismisses Antonio on the false charge of falsifying her accounts, Bossulat praises him in glowing terms in order to win her confidence. Bossulat describes him as a paragon of all virtues. He tells her that Antonio is perfectly honest. Because of his honesty, he continues to be poor. Money comes slowly when it is earned by honest means. He again says that Antonio is a soldier who possesses many virtues. He doesn't underestimate one's good qualities. He seldom displays his own virtues or talks about them himself, because he considers it mean and foolish to parade one's own merits. Her virtues and manners deserve better treatment. His talks appears to be more for self-analysis than for a show of eloquence. He has a perfect heart, but he never boasted of it. So, in banishing Antonio, the Duchess has not behaved like a good ruler. Question 16. How does Bosola praise the Duchess for marrying Antonio? Answer. When the Duchess dismisses Antonio on the false charge of falsifying her accounts, Bosola praises him in glowing terms in order to win her confidence. Bosola describes him as a paragon of all virtues, and he tells her that Antonio is perfectly honest. The Duchess then reveals that Antonio is her husband. Hearing this, Bosola wants to elicit some information from her and begins to praise her marrying Antonio, who is a perfect gentleman in every way. Bosola calls her a fortunate lady for getting Antonio as her husband. Bosola says that a large number of unemployed scholars will pray for her welfare for marrying Antonio, thinking that at least some people in this world get rewarded for their merit. The poor unmarried girls of her kingdom will also look to her example and hope to get rich husbands, just as a humble man like Antonio get a rich wife. If she needs soldiers, even Turks and Moors will like to become Christian and serve her out of their admiration for their noble act of hers in marrying Antonio. Lastly, the poets of her country will write poems in praise of her and Antonio. Question 17. How does Antonio accuse Cariola of betraying him and the Duchess? Answer. Cariola is the Duchess's maid and confidant. She is the witness to the Duchess's marriage to her steward, Antonio. She keeps the secret faithfully, but when the Duchess is in her bedchamber talking to herself in front of her mirror, Ferdinand enters behind her. He offers to kill her and accuses her of being unnatural, a witch, a whore, and of destroying her family reputation. He tells her to die and hand her a knife. Ferdinand leaves, and immediately afterwards Antonio enters with a pistol and with Cariola. Antonio says that he saw Ferdinand, and wondering how Ferdinand entered the Duchess's chamber, he accuses Cariola of betraying them and threatens her to shoot for this betrayal. Cariola, however, claims innocence. Thank you friends for watching my video.